The second part to the foundation, I think, is hospitality. We have to work on the hospitality of our congregations, because if someone does come and is not received in a hospitable way, it's not going to help the cause at all. And our congregations, they believe they're hospitable and that they're friendly, but they're really friendly to one another. Right. On a Sunday morning, all of the bishops, we go out and we preach somewhere, and I show up in a black suit and a black briefcase and a robe over my shoulder and walk into a fellowship hall or the front door of the church where there's people gathered and they're talking to one another. It's like I'm not even there. And I've known these people for 25 years, and many of them are friends, but they're busy talking about baking, or they're talking about the fishing hole, or they're talking about or what the crops coming in or something else. And sometimes it's 10 minutes before anybody greets me. Sometimes I know where the sacristy is. Well, I also know where the sacristy is or where the pastor's office is. I just go ahead and go there and hang up my robe and look for the pastor. But it's amazing that the hospitality level of our congregations could be much better. My wife one time she comes with me all the time, and we were leaving the church after worship and after the potluck dinner. Somebody came up in the parking lot and said, Polly, if I knew you were the bishop's wife, I would have said hi. So we got to work on hospitality. Well, how do we do that? I think there's a couple ways to do it, but I think one way is to encourage the people that we're going to ask to be leaders in this work to visit other churches and have a couple people go together and visit a Lutheran church and then visit a Methodist church or a church of another denomination and write down what it feels like. How did you feel like being a stranger or a visitor? What made you feel welcome? What made you feel uncomfortable? Did you know where to go, what to do, and how to do it? And take some notes. What was good and what was bad? And have your people do that sometimes, and then have conversations about it. I think that's a great way to teach hospitality. Some of the scariest times in terms of people visiting our congregations for the first time has to do with Holy Communion as well. Even for me, I'm kind of a veteran Lutheran, and I've been to, hundreds and hundreds of Holy Communion services around the world, I guess. But I'm sitting there, and I'm always in panic if the pastor hadn't told me previously what happens in Holy Communion. Do I commune first? Do I commune last? Do we dip? Do we drink? Do we bow? And so if the pastor can provide some kind of hospitality announcement in the beginning of the service or before Holy Communion as to how this goes, it puts the people at ease in a very significant way. I'm kind of ashamed of it, but I was leading worship in a township hall when I was developing a new congregation in St. Charles, Illinois, Hosanna Lutheran Church. And I don't know, we were at it about a month. And we had a lot of new people there. And I said, it's time for communion, and come on up. And they didn't know what to do, so I said, make an ark. And one of the dear guys went like this. Now, I came back the next Sunday, but that would have been enough maybe for me to be embarrassed enough to say, that's a secret code, a secret society. I'm not coming back. And then, of course, signs, directions. And another area of hospitality that's interesting is how clean the church is, what it looks like. That makes a difference to people. If it's shabby or rundown or dirty, the visitor thinks, well, that's the way they feel about Jesus. So that's important, it's kept up. I've got kind of a silly story about this. I'm going to tell, it doesn't really relate as much, but Gary, my grandson, and Polly, my grandson, went to church with Polly and I at Grace and Loves Park, I don't know, a couple months ago. And Gary was 3 at the time. So they had 3 services. Polly took him to the second, and he stayed for the third one, too. And he said, oh, Pa, after church, he said, Pa, church is fun. And I said, well, what did you like about the church, Gary? And he didn't say anything. So I said, well, did you like the friendly people? He said, no, Pa. I said, did you like the wonderful music? No, Pa. Did you like what Pa said? No, Pa. I said, what did you like? Oh, the bathrooms, Pa. Grandma took me to the bathroom 3 times, and they were clean, and they were shiny, and they were big. That's kind of a funny illustration, isn't it? But at the same time, people notice things, and that's what struck this little guy. So anyway. So we got the foundation laid through prayer and hospitality.